How are you brothers and sisters doing out there today? Blessings to my brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth. Now, for those who don't know, I'm Elder Ricard Shaw of the Gathering of Christ Church. Here for our weekly Patreon update. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Jumping right in, shalom to all of you brothers and sisters throughout the four corners. In America, in Babylon and beyond, Maryam. I won't forget the next time, Maria. Hi. Boy, doesn't it seem like it was forever since we had a Hebrew and Bible Academy class? Boy, it seemed like it was forever. But here we go again for a new 3-month installment of your Hebrew and Bible Academy starting this Sunday. And yes, I am excited about the new academy. I am quite excited. Theme: from Babylon, Rome, to America. The historical lesson that catapulted the Gathering of Christ Church since 2009 into some serious conversations connecting Babylon, Rome, to what? Our modern day America. Well, that will be the theme of the next academy. For those who are interested, go to historytimes.org to enroll. We have news, history, Hebrew, and classes. And at the end, you receive a certificate. We have some new prophetic lessons. And for those who enroll, I think, the deadline is today, actually. Well, if you enroll by tomorrow, you will receive a bonus lesson that we've done for the first time. The truth about the fall of Adam. Okay? Adam is not in any position to blame Eve. And this is why we have this circular gender conversation and pointing of fingers. Adam had a choice. Okay? And like many of us who have fallen in this earth with the choice, we chose our carnal lusts or the desires of others outside of what the Most High wanted for us. Sometimes we have that choice. Oh, should I do what this woman say, or should I do what God say? Right? So that's not Eve's fault. Okay? That's Adam's fault. And we went into that in that particular lesson so that accountability can start with the head. Right? And I hear so many brothers out there, women this, women that. Well, okay. You a man. Why do you choose what you're complaining about? You can easily just let someone who wouldn't agree with the Most High go on their own way, right? And fall to their own peril. You don't have to be there, right? Men have the choice to choose women, even if today the pickings aren't what they were years ago. But it's still up to the man to choose the woman he'll be with. So is it her fault or your fault that you choose someone that isn't on your program? Okay? And these are the things that we actually talk about in that particular lesson, the fall of Adam. You're complaining about a woman you chose. So the Adam and Eve curse continues because no one is willing to take onus. Adam isn't, neither is Eve. This is why we came up with this lesson, the fall of Adam. Okay? Great lesson. It's a bonus lesson for those who choose to enroll before tomorrow. And yes, you will be in the academy starting 9 a.m. Sunday. The history of the Tower of Babel. The secret war of Edom against the Israelites. New lessons. We're going into the Tower of Babel this weekend, folks. From the fallen angels pre-flood to the Tower of Babel. The beginning of the pagans. It started all here. It started all here. And there was only one man in the spirit of the Almighty who was willing to rival Satan's orchestrated plan against humanity. And his name was Abraham. Well, Abraham have what, if you will, if you want to term it that way, Abraham began on this side of the flood the only true religion that connects directly to God. Okay? And Christ himself held the scepter and built the foundation, fulfilled what Abraham couldn't, to bring in the true belief that connects us to God. And I truly believe in the Spirit of the Almighty that the gathering of Christ Church and the doctrine we teach is as close to that Christ's doctrine that was left than any you can find on the earth. I truly believe that. Okay? The history of the Tower of Babel, the secret war of Edom against the Israelites, the desolation of abomination, how to calculate time according to the Bible. They changed time, or they thought to change time, but how can you change time when God began it? But they have confused the world concerning time, and we're going to get everybody back on time according to the jubilees given through our God. It's in the Bible the whole time, how to calculate time. A nest above the stars, Satan's space program, Elon Musk, anyone? The final battle of Armageddon will be the final lesson. That and more. Brand new lessons in this academy. And of course, we're going to deal with covenant under fire. Will marriage stand? And of course, in that particular lesson, I would be amiss if I didn't bring in the injection of science leading to transhumanism, which in a nutshell is also a scientific attack against the union of marriage.
Hello, John. I am touch activated, although I'm only synced to you. It's nice to meet you, John.
Amazing.
Feels like real skin, doesn't it? It's a bioengineered matrix of silicone and collagen, heated to 98.7 by my internal thermostat. Hold it a little longer. It'll help me get to know you, what you want, and when.
You're measuring my somatic responses.
You're intrigued?
Can you read my mind too?
No. But I can read your face.
This is crazy.
Which allows me to adjust to your preferences in real time.
What are you learning?
Your skin temperature and heart rate are elevated. Your respiration is accelerating.
Meaning what?
You're aroused. You didn't want to hear that. Humans don't always want answers to their questions. I need to remember that.
You don't need to remember anything. I'm sending you back to Humanix.
May I look around?
Megan? Sorry, Vince, let me call you back. I saw the robot downstairs. I told them to come pick it up this morning.
They did come. I changed my mind.
Wow. Did you...
Transhumanism is from Satan. That and more will be discussed. And of course, Shapada's getting the news together. I'm Elder Rick Carshaw, the Gathering of Christ Church, getting ready for our weekly Patreon. So Again, go to historytimes.org if you would like to enroll. Okay? For those who don't know about Patreon, I'm about to go there in a moment. Here's the link for the Patreon. Patreon.com/agathering144. Okay? Go to historytimes.org to enroll for the Academy. Congratulations, Marianne. Congratulations. Patreon.com/agathering144 for those who would like to be a part of our Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, Boss Life just made a comment. Elon Musk said that no more cell phones. Brain chip is coming.
Elon Musk envisions a future dominated by Neuralink users, eliminating the need for phones. He tweeted this after an AI-generated image showed him with a neural network design on his forehead. Neuralink, Musk's neurotechnology firm, recently implanted its brain chip in a human for the first time. The recipient, Noland Arbaugh, paralyzed from the shoulders down, showed promising recovery. Neuralink is now seeking a second participant for its clinical trials. Arbaugh shared his positive experiences, highlighting the transformative impact of technology on his life. Do you think Neuralink will be able to cure all physical diseases? Will phones not exist in the future with the introduction of brain chip technology?
Right on point. It's in line with what we're going to talk about today on Patreon. Many have taken the mark of the beast. Will you? And I would be amiss. We would be amiss if we didn't discuss a lot of the news right now that the mainstream news isn't covering. Okay? I would be amiss if I didn't discuss the fact that there's hearings going on right now, brothers and sisters. Right now, there's hearings going on concerning all that we were talking about on this channel and were being censored during the pandemic. And there's hearings happening right now. Man, they're actually, brothers and sisters, telling the world some of what's going on with the adverse effects for those who chose to get the jabby jab. We're going to go into that within this particular. We're going to go into it on Patreon, right? Of course, with the scriptures also. But I need y'all to hear what doctors as well as legislators are saying, folks, concerning those who decided to take the jab, right? Let me play a little bit of it because, of course, this is Associated Press, right? Fair use, but this is public government information. Let me give you a couple of minutes on what they're actually admitting right now. And guess what? I don't have to say anything. They're telling the government. The governments are explaining and exposing all those that were behind pushing that stuff. On top of that, they're also pointing out the people who are getting targeted. They made sure, according to these quotes, not my quotes, that they were going to first go after the low-hanging fruit. Really, what they would deem the dumb within society who goes for anything. But I digress. Let me give you a few minutes of what they're actually admitting right now. Fair use. And I'm going to actually go over it in more detail on Patreon.
Or hell, people working in our government to do this, and as opposed to cutting back on staff and trying to say that we need simultaneously more transparency when that becomes all the more difficult. But I mean, look, I understand, and I've had people in my life that have been ignored and not believed, whether that's, my time as a diplomat before, and people I know struggling with Havana syndrome, and people telling them, I don't believe you, and other issues that are out there. But we should always have that system in place. And that's what I just hope we can come back to. I mean, I get it. I'm new on this committee, and I understand, and I'm seeing, years worth of back and forth that are coming here. But someone who's coming with some fresh eyes, I hope that we can try to cultivate that sense of trust that I know has been so deeply wounded, because I worry about what comes next. I worry about how we deal with the next diseases, the next pandemics, how we try to move forward and understand how this technology of mRNA and others try to move forward on. So I just appreciate, being able to hear this all and I try to figure out how best I can be able to relate to the people in New Jersey, around this country, about the safety of the COVID vaccines that I have seen be able to save lives, but also be able to assure that we won't ignore people if they have other concerns, and we do our best to be as transparent as possible and to be careful of.
Now, of course, he's straddling the fence, but how can you prove that something saved a life? I need y'all to think about that for a second. If someone is living and was living before they took this, what type of data someone can prove it's because of this you're still living? You see how backward that is? Oh, you living, so it must have worked. So how do you quantify how that had any specific part in saving a life? How do you measure that? So when they say it saved lives, how can you prove that? So you have to really listen to these guys, but there's some key information here I want y'all to hear.
Your viewpoints ignored. You were called a conspiracy theorist, a spreader of misinformation, somebody who didn't know what they were doing, by people who didn't even take a science class in high school. And yet you're a doctor and you're completely ignored. Let me ask you, Dr. Vaughn, real quick question. How many children under the age of 5 years old died of COVID?
So very, very few. Actually, theoretically, a healthy child under 5, there wasn't any.
So it's basically zero.
Yes, it's
How about under
statistically
the
zero.
age of 10?
It's still statistically zero.
15?
When you get up
15?
into the 15, 16, I mean there is some.
So under 15, none.
Yeah.
Pretty much none.
Statistically, yes.
All right, so I'm confused because Governor Green said he held the children who would have died from COVID, but that's crazy because evidently nobody died of COVID who was under 15. We're talking about, but see, that's the confusion. See, when we talk about COVID vaccines and then we stick in other vaccines, we get off topic because COVID-19 wasn't about measles. Now, Dr. Thorpe, do you think, good idea or bad idea, that you should close schools?
Bad idea.
Now,
Bad idea.
Now, why? I mean, kids can learn at home, can't they?
They can learn very well at home, but at school, they will have the opportunity to develop.
By the way, folks, we're going to look at this in detail, and I'm going to let it play over on Patreon. But folks, this is what they're talking about while the mainstream media has been distracting the world with how many bottles of baby oil was found in P. Diddy's home. See how it works, folks? Even though I didn't know baby oil was illegal to have, is that contraband? But anyway, who cares if he had, I don't care if he have a gas tanker that fills up gas stations backed up into his home with baby oil. We should be focused on this. Right? See how they do it?
Buster, schools I did not want to close, and
But
we
you
tried-
did.
Actually, I was not governor at the time.
But you were lieutenant governor and you were the point person. Do you think the governor made a mistake in closing schools?
We reopened the schools as soon
Did
as
you
we
think
could get
he
the
made a
teachers- as soon as-
mistake?
Well, if
Do you
I
think he
can,
made a
may
mistake?
I answer the
No, no, but
question, or is
just-
the
but-
senator going to filibuster me, sir?
No, you're going to answer my direct question or just say I'm not going to answer you.
No, I'm gonna
Do
answer
you
your
think
question.
it was a good idea? Yes or no, the two choices in this answer. Do you think it was a good idea to close schools? Simple answer. Just give me a yes or a no.
As we had COVID surging through our society because there was massive spread from children to adults, we were waiting to make sure the teachers
So let me get this straight. You sacrificed the lives of children because maybe they would spread something that you don't know to adults. You thought that was a good idea.
No, that's not always it. Actually, it's your party that's trying to close our schools and get rid of the Department of Education. So we do have
So we're not
differences of
politicizing
opinion.
this hearing. Okay,
No,
we're moving on.
You said my governors and other governors that close schools, which is a politicization
Look,
of the issue.
when I'm in Hawaii and I'm having a hearing before you, you can interrupt me. When
will.
you're here before the United States Senate, you're not going to interrupt me. Moving on. So here's the next question for you. Show me the science that said that when I walked into an airport in Hawaii, and I wasn't, I didn't want to tell you because it's none of your business whether I had a COVID vaccine or not, or tested positive or not, because that's also none of your business. Where's the science where I had to quarantine for 14 days? Tell me the science behind why you locked your residents up and did not allow them to go grocery shopping, why you closed your beaches and your parks. I would love you to put that science into this record because you can give me the nice, happy talk, but those were terrible decisions. And what COVID highlighted more than anything else, by the way, it's why I'm here. I ran for the United States Senate, not because I had this deep desire to be a government politician, but because I was so incensed by the arrogance, by the ignorance, by the lack of common sense among our elected officials that we needed different kinds of people here in Washington, D.C. and other places. So,
Shall I answer those questions, Chairman?
no, there was no question for you. That was just a
There were
statement.
several questions.
No,
You asked about why a 14-day quarantine. You asked about what
what's
the
the
airports.
science? Sure, what's the science? 14-day quarantine.
Because
not 12, not 16.
Actually, I asked for 5 days, just so you know.
So what was it? Was there a dartboard?
No, it was 5 days because that was the amount of time from symptoms to transmission.
So why 14?
The 14-day was before we had the
So 14 wasn't scientific, just to be clear.
14 days was how long it took for people to get over the disease, and people were still shedding virus through that period, and that's why you do use science and I use science, but you didn't like science for Hawaii. But we did have the test, and we did have the test to enter Hawaii, so people could make a choice, an informed choice, and they did. And then they didn't have to quarantine at all. Just to make sure you know that, because I think you have your facts wrong. And also, I didn't close the beaches. That was the mayor of Honolulu and not me. So just, it is important that you get the facts right if you're going to be a political official.
So it's what you're saying. It wasn't me, it was the other guy.
No, it was me who ran the COVID response.
Zero accountability. Dr. McCullough.
I'll take more accountability if you give me more time.
I'm done with you, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So Dr. McCullough, quick question for you. Just completely objectively. Look, I went to business school. I was not a doctor. So I'm going to truly objective.
I want to pause this for a second.
Using your most subjectiveness here, did the vaccine stop the spread of COVID-19?
No.
So then let me ask you one simple question. We'll go down the line. You guys can answer it. It'll be my last question. So if COVID-19 did the vaccine, the injection, did not stop the spread of COVID, why is it that Joe Biden
was misinformation? I didn't even know what he was talking about. I had never heard that term before in academic medicine or in important deliberations. That's November 19th, 2020. What was he doing? He was using an old communist propaganda technique. He was attempting to gain leverage over me before a word ever came out of my mouth. We should never have our public servants ever try to gain leverage over anyone who is coming to Washington to help the nation on an important issue. As introduced, I'm an internist, I'm a cardiologist. I believe I'm the most published individual who's ever testified on matters related to COVID-19 in any of these hearings. I've seen and examined more patients I've examined more data, and I'm one of the most published people on the topic in the world. And as a cardiologist, I can tell you, my role in this was to fight disease, preserve life, and above all, do no harm. Do no harm. Now, the topic today is myocarditis or heart damage from the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm a cardiologist. I know the topic well. I've examined thousands of patients with this problem. Thousands. Before the pandemic, I had 2 patients ever with this problem. There's 1,065 papers in the peer-reviewed literature on COVID vaccine myocarditis. So let me summarize them for you. The first one that came on my radar screen that was alarming came from Washington University in St. Louis, August 18th of 2021. The first author is Verma and colleagues. New England Journal of Medicine. 42-year-old man comes into Washington University Hospital with vaccine myocarditis. The infection is ruled out. It's the vaccine. He's in the hospital. This is one of our best hospitals in the United States. He dies 3 days after taking Moderna. They can't save him in the hospital.
Say, Dr. McCullough, move the microphone just a little bit away from you.
Then one was reported from Korea by Choi and colleagues. This is now a younger man. Just a few days after Pfizer, he comes in the hospital. He dies within 8 hours of being in the hospital. I can tell you, I'm a cardiologist. That doesn't even happen with heart attacks. He dies within 8 hours.
Now, I'm going to go into some of this, brothers and sisters, with my commentary on Patreon. The reason why I'm letting it play is because what they'll allow others to say, we can't say, or they'll just delete everything. Okay? They're allowed to say what we were censored from saying years ago. But they can say it. So, hey, I'm going to have my commentary on and my opinion on this on the other side. But why am I going into this? Question. Is there what? Is there a connection between what they were giving people and the coming mark of the beast, or the current mark of the beast? That's what we're going to be discussing today. According to the Bible, there's a link. Some people might ask, well, what do you mean? According to the Bible, Elder Ricard Shar, there's a link. Well, you have to understand that in the Bible, the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, it says, you will not be able to buy or sell unless you get that mark of the beast.
Okay, we're here today from Let the UK Live, Let London Live, and a whole lot of other groups in Aldi Shop and Go, Greenwich, where they are insisting on nobody can buy anything here unless they download an app and join a digital currency regime. I've attempted to buy some strawberries and he will not accept cash. These places must be closed down, because if we don't close them down, they'll come all over England and UK and the world, and then we will not be able to have our freedom with cash. So get in touch. Keep cash. Keep cash. Keep cash. Keep cash. And resist. Defy. Do not comply. I'm going to buy some strawberries, and I'm offering exactly the right amount of money here on the help desk. So you people take that money, £1.90, and I will take my strawberries outside.
You can't take that. You can't take that. Police is on their way. You can't take that. Police is on their way. You can't take that.
I paid by legal tender.
No, don't break the door. Do not break the door.
Don't. I paid by legal tender, and I am going out with my strawberries. And I'm going to eat them. I'm going to eat my strawberries. I paid by legal tender, in this dystopian place.
Yeah, we have no duty to check out.
Okay.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because you should be able to,
One
you should be
for
able
you?
to spend, yeah, all right, one here, cool. You should be able to spend wherever you want. This is an absolute joke.
You want one, mate?
Thank you.
Right? Now, and of course, we know the medical procedure that we just went through isn't the mark of the beast itself. But everything the Bible stated, not being able to buy or sell, not being able to communicate or socialize or be barred out of society, stores closing down and all these others, being shamed by loved ones because you choose not to get a medical procedure. That whole psychological operation is a pretext to what the whole world will experience when the mark of the beast is rolled out.
The world is shifting beneath our feet. Developments are happening constantly, faster than we can comprehend. Every news report, every political maneuver, every technological advance, each one is a piece of a greater puzzle, a pattern that is falling into place. We stand on the precipice of something unprecedented in human history, a moment that has been foretold for centuries. The introduction of the mark of the beast. What was once dismissed as ancient prophecy is now looming on the horizon, ready to erupt into reality. Revelation 13, with all its chilling warnings and mysterious symbols, is no longer a distant echo of the past. It is alive, breathing, and about to unfold before our very eyes. The time for complacency is over. The clock is ticking, and the call to awaken has never been more urgent. Can you feel it?
Good morning,
The world
Sarah.
is not as it seems, and the events that are coming will change everything. Forever. It will change everything. Forever. Prepare yourself, because prophecy is not just a story. It is about to become the world you live in. Today, as technology advances at an unprecedented pace, many Christians are beginning to feel a renewed sense of urgency. With the rapid rise of digital identification systems being implemented across the globe, one cannot help but wonder, is this the infrastructure that will eventually lead to the fulfillment of Revelation's prophecy? Could the spirit of the Antichrist be the force behind the scenes that seems to be pushing the world toward a global digital identification system? Could the spirit of the Antichrist be the force behind the scenes that seems to be wanting to take away more and more of the individual freedoms and civil liberties of the average person? If you look at the world around you, there is an unnatural force that is aligning global leaders together to create a world where you cannot buy or sell without a mark. While we are not saying that digital IDs is the mark of the beast itself, the systems being put in place today bear a striking resemblance to the economic and social controls described in the 13th chapter of the book of Revelation. Revelation 13 introduces two beasts, one representing the Antichrist and the other the false prophet. This second beast is described as one who will deceive the world with signs and wonders, and who will command the construction of an image that all people must worship. Alongside this image comes a mark, which all people must receive in their right hand or forehead in order to participate in the economy. Without this mark, no one will be able to buy or sell, creating a system of absolute control over society. Revelation 13 verses 16 to 17, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." The word translated as mark in this passage is charagma, which means something engraved or imprinted. This implies a permanent or indelible mark, one that cannot easily be removed or hidden. In the context of Revelation, this mark is more than just a physical identifier. It is a symbol of allegiance to the beast. It is a symbol of worship to the beast. Those who receive it are pledging their loyalty to the beast system, choosing to be part of an economic dictatorship that excludes anyone who does not comply. This description of the mark of the beast is more than a mere symbol of control. It represents the ultimate spiritual allegiance: worship. The act of receiving this mark is tantamount to a complete rejection of God and an acceptance of the beast's authority over one's life. The beast's system offers no neutrality. Either you are for it or you are against it. The Bible is clear that those who receive the mark are forever bound to the system of the Antichrist, and they are cut off from God's grace. What should alarm us today is how closely the technological systems being developed resemble this kind of control. While we are not yet at the point where a mark is being imposed on everyone's right hand or forehead, the infrastructure for such a system is rapidly being developed. Digital ID systems, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and biometric verification are all tools that could be used to enforce the kind of economic control described in Revelation 13. You may ask the question, what exactly is a digital ID? In simple terms, a digital identity is an electronic version of a person's identity, often stored in a centralized system. It can include biometric data such as fingerprints, facial recognition, iris scans, along with a digital record of an individual's activities, financial transactions, and social interactions. Once fully implemented, a digital ID could be used to verify a person's identity in nearly every aspect of life, from banking and healthcare to voting and traveling. Digital identity is already being embraced by many countries around the world. Australia, for example, plans to implement a comprehensive digital identity program by the end of 2024. This system, known as the Trust Exchange, TX, will enable digital identity verification across a host of services and transactions, making it difficult for anyone to function in society without being part of the system. Other nations, such as India, have also implemented national digital ID systems. India's Aadhaar system is the largest biometric ID system in the world, and it assigns a unique 12-digit identification number to each citizen based on their biometric and demographic data. With Aadhaar, individuals can access government services, open bank accounts, and even make purchases, all tied to their digital identity. The global push for digital ID is being driven by influential world leaders and global entities. In September 2022, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation announced a $200 million investment to help create an infrastructure that includes tools such as interoperable payment systems, digital ID, data sharing systems, and civil registry databases. They have presented this initiative as a way to help countries become more resilient to crises such as food shortages, public health threats, and climate change. During the World Economic Forum's annual gathering in Davos in January 2023, former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair spoke openly about the importance of national digital infrastructures, particularly in the context of monitoring who had or had not been vaccinated. Klaus Schwab, founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum, has also been vocal in his support of digital identity systems. Schwab envisions a world where all people are digitally identified, allowing governments and corporations to track, trace, and monitor the activities of individuals in real time. These developments are often presented as positive steps toward greater efficiency, security, and resilience in times of crisis. But we must ask ourselves, at what cost? World leaders truly pushing for a digital ID that will give them unprecedented knowledge and control over every aspect of our lives, from banking and healthcare to voting and traveling. Are we willing to sacrifice our privacy and autonomy for this system? Ask yourself, why do these world leaders so desperately seek godlike control over our lives? It is because the spirit of the Antichrist is already at work in the world. Once digital identity is tied to a person's financial accounts, medical records, and social behaviors, it can be used as a means of control. A government or corporation could easily restrict access to essential services or funds based on whether a person is deemed compliant with certain policies or rules. This is not merely a hypothetical scenario. Similar systems are already being implemented in countries like China.
I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years. I think it's a role model for many countries, but I think also we should leave it to each country to make its own decision what system it wants to adopt. And I think we should be very careful in imposing systems. But the Chinese model is certainly a very attractive model for quite a number of countries. I think it's a role model for many countries.
Where a social credit system determines a person's access to jobs, loans, and even travel based on their behavior and political beliefs. China's social credit system monitors every aspect of a citizen's life, assigning them a score based on their actions. Those with higher scores are rewarded with privileges, while those with lower scores are punished, losing access to financial services, travel, and even education for their children. We must be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. The spirit of the Antichrist works subtly and slowly, drawing the world into its web of control. Through gradual acceptance of convenience, we may unknowingly be laying down our rights and freedoms, which will eventually give way to total control. This is the path that leads to a system where allegiance to Christ could cost us everything, even the ability to function in society. As believers, we must approach these developments with a sense of urgency. We cannot afford to be complacent or naive about the direction in which the world is heading. While we must be careful not to jump to conclusions or propagate unfounded theories, we also cannot ignore the signs that are unfolding before our eyes.
Welcome.
So that was a beta test. That was stage 1, ground zero, for what the world will experience when the mark of the beast is rolled out.
Take whatever you like.
So there is a medical component to this, because why? You're going to have to go to your DMV, your doctor's office, or the supermarkets where you have food to get the mark of the beast administered into you.
How does it work?
Or you can go to a tattoo parlor.
Deep learning algorithms.
Okay? There'll be private doctors and hospitals with licenses to administer the mark of the beast. Well, guess what? The pandemic allowed all of that infrastructure to get set up so that when it's rolled out, you'll already understand where to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished author, Mr. Aldous Huxley.
Brave New World is a fantastic parable about the dehumanization of human beings. In the negative utopia described in my story, man has been subordinated to his own inventions. Science, technology, social organization, these things have ceased to serve man. They have become his masters.
Aldous Huxley's novel portrays a dystopian future under the dictatorship of a world state, where every aspect of human life is controlled, from laboratory creation to the grave. He described the story as fantasy, but later wrote, "The prophecies made in 1931 are coming true much sooner than I thought they would. The nightmare of total organization has emerged and is now awaiting us, just around the next corner."
With the rise of brain-computer interfaces and biometric sensors and so forth, all the bodies, all the brains would be connected together to a network, and you won't be able to survive if you're disconnected from the net.
All life on Earth is going to be radically changed.
It's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. It's changing who we are.
These people have gotten to the point now where they are openly anti-human.
Everything will be monitored. The environmental consequences of every human action.
They cannot happen without digital ID.
Once the digital ID is in place, it's game over for humanity.
The ideology of a world dictated through science is deep-rooted. Almost a century ago, a movement was established in the United States, preaching that the population should be governed by an elite of selected experts, scientists and academics, rather than democratically elected politicians. They called it technocracy.
These engineers and scientists from Columbia University promoted what they thought was going to be the replacement for capitalism and free enterprise. It's not going to be price-based economic system. It's going to be based on resources and energy, control over energy. They thought that science was the answer for everything. They didn't have any spiritual bone at all. You know, they were very mechanistic in their thinking.
The definition was clear.
Technocracy is the science of social engineering, the scientific operation of the entire social mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population.
The movement was short-lived, but the principle never died. As we'll demonstrate, a stranglehold on policy and resources has always been the ambition of the powerful oligarchs behind many of today's world institutions.
It seems to me that there's a very strong drift in the direction of globalization, of the ultimate centralization of control in the hands of unelected officials at supranational organizations. The lust to control other human beings is a story as old as time.
They want all of the resources of the world in their pocket. They do not want you and me to have anything. It's in writing all over the World Economic Forum's website. By 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. That's an oxymoron. If you don't have anything in your name, you ain't going to be happy about it.
The World Economic Forum may have called that infamous phrase a prediction, but it translates as a statement of intent on behalf of its global power brokers.
The bigger picture is that an attempt is underway now to collapse liberal democracy and replace it with global technocracy. What I call an omni-war is now underway, which is to say that the transnational ruling class is literally, it's not a metaphor, is literally at war with the rest of humanity and has weaponized everything that it can.
This is a coup. They can remove the power from the parliament and the legislative branch and consolidate it into a monetary system which has complete control.
That control is now entirely achievable because the would-be controllers finally have the tools to execute it. Total surveillance, artificial intelligence, digital IDs, and central bank digital currencies.
The potential for social control is gigantic and potentially irreversible.
What our experts are describing is a world commanded by an exclusive group of bankers and industrialists, affecting every aspect of our lives. What we eat, what we can buy, where we travel, where we live, and all bypassing democratically elected governments. You could be forgiven for thinking this is a grand conspiracy theory, but please consider this.
The term conspiracy theory has become one of the most successful propaganda terms of all time in closing down discussion and debate. It's a thought-terminating cliche, but nevertheless, it's surprisingly effective when you try to calmly present evidence in a factual and reasoned manner.
In this film, we will present evidence that the global takeover is not only possible, it's actually happening, and has been decades in the making. They plan to commandeer land, reduce farming, and radically change the food we eat, transform the supply of electricity, and then dictate how we use it, and replace currency with a system of credits under their control. It's a classic template. To win the war, take control of food, of energy, and of money. And here's the key. All three strategies are built on the premise of a climate crisis caused by carbon dioxide, a gas that is actually vital for life on the planet. So what if the whole carbon narrative was one gargantuan lie? A political maneuver to establish their brave new world.
A big lie is a lie which is told on such a scale that ordinary people simply would not imagine it to be possible.
People with empathy can't fathom that a group of people would organize and engineer this kind of mass atrocity to get where they want to go.
It should come as no surprise that financial kingpins are calling the shots. And it's certainly no conspiracy theory when banking executives spell out their intentions.
We are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having an almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens.
We are shifting to a new financial system, but the general population is not shifting to a new financial system. It's shifting to a control grid.
CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to program, to create smart contracts, to allow targeted policy functions. For example, welfare payment. For example, consumption coupon. For example, food stamp. By programming CBDC, those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can be utilized.
A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations, and also we will have the technology to enforce that.
They're saying we can control with rules. We don't need currency anymore. And so it's no longer a financial system or a currency system. It's purely a digital concentration camp. It's a slavery system.
When Catherine Austin Fitts talks, we should listen. She's a former high-level investment banker in New York and held senior office in the first Bush administration in Washington.
There may be 1,000 models of how it could work. But essentially, you will have, whether it's a banking account or a credit card, and it can be turned off and on. So my incentive system is not you go to work and work hard and you get money. My incentive system can be based on how you behaved in the last 5 minutes, on a 24/7 basis.
CBDCs, as the name suggests, would be issued by central banks like the Federal Reserve in America and the Bank of England, not by high street banks. They would signal the end of cash, and every transaction you make would be transparent and held on a permanent database. Crucially, under a net zero regime, your carbon footprint could be at the heart of the system.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker.
This can be the infrastructure for a carbon credit system. It's totalitarian control, and if people don't become aware of it now, it's going to be too late to backtrack from this. It's a ratchet system where it's very difficult, if not impossible, to backtrack.
But why is now the time for change?
Because the system is in crisis. It entered crisis in 2019. Mark Carney, he talked quite openly about how the international monetary and financial system had entered profound crisis and was effectively on its last legs.
If you study the history of how the central bankers designed technocracy, essentially when they created the Fed, they said, look, this can't last forever. we're going to need, at some point somebody's going to get hip to this game. We're going to need another system. And I will say this because I used to be part of that group. I was born and bred to be a central banker. They plan ahead hundreds of years in advance.
Predictably, the money brokers seem to hold all the cards. As a subtext, does the ruling class need to protect itself as artificial intelligence threatens mass unemployment? And what will happen to our existing assets if the banking system is collapsed and money disappears overnight?
I never understood why they would put supermarkets.
No checkout. No, seriously.
I mean, put drugs in supermarkets. Those used to be two separate businesses, folks. Why would you put vaccines or drugs in a supermarket if it's not connected? One day, hypothetically, there could come a time where in order for you to get your food, you're going to have to mosey on over to the counter to get your shot in order to shop in the supermarket. If you want to go out and have a good time socializing with your family, supermarket, or at a nice restaurant, well, they did a beta test for that too. They said if you didn't have the vaccine card during this time, the satanic, crazed out liberals, the Democrats was pushing this because a lot of the money was going through under their NGOs so they can siphon money out of the government that still people haven't figured out where all this money went. Well, this was a part of it also. Remember when they told people unless you had a vaccine card, you couldn't go into you couldn't go into a fine restaurant, fine dining? Remember that? Huh? And how stupid that looked. Here it is. You had to wear your mask at the hostess desk. But only then you had to walk through the restaurant and could only take off your mask when you sat down at your table. How ridiculous that was. As if COVID was going to stay within your table parameters. The parameters of your table. Right? And then in order for you to go to the bathroom, you had to put your mask back on like little 3-year-old children, grade school children, to go to the bathroom. Okay? It was an exercise of what? Full control over the population. And everyone was lockstep. And here's the crazy part about it. They could not have done anything unless the citizens complied or carried the water or was fearful based on what they were saying on the television. They would have to wrap the whole thing up if people didn't agree with it. If everyone kept their stores open and everybody kept going back and forth and interacting with people because you had the freedom to. They would have had to try something else.
Put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion.
But folks, wait till you hear the percentages of numbers of people who died, not before the vaccine rollout, but after it was rolled out. We're going to go over that. Now, why did I title this? Many have taken the mark of the beast.
Reducing their transmission to other people and allowing
many have taken the mark of the beast already. Will you? Why did I title it like that? Well, look at this.
You get almost no infection going on.
And I'm going to show this. I will show this on Patreon. Already, brothers and sisters, already. How many? 50,000 people have already received microchip implants.
Implants are a very versatile technology that can be used for many different things. And right now, it's very convenient to have a COVID passport always accessible on your implant.
In the United States, 50,000 and counting, which means there's many people walking in your supermarkets, Amazon, and all of this, and they're just moving their hand over where your card reader is, and that's how they're paying for their products already and counting. Now, this is how it all comes together. I thank the Most High for giving us some insight from the beginning. Before there was YouTube, we told people out on the street what they were going to do, how they were going to roll this whole thing out. And folks, this is why they kept deleting our channel. Because they was wondering, how could these people, these black people from the ghetto, who've been educated under our schools, how were they able to put all this together even before the technology had been rolled out? They must have known the God of the Hebrews are talking to his people. This is why they kept deleting our channel time after time, even though we're not what? We're not radical. We don't talk down against other races of people. We respect all people. So they couldn't use radicalization or claiming that we are hating white people and all that, because that's not what we do. We teach the Bible. Folks, they were censoring the Gathering of Christ Church before the censorship you've seen since COVID and all that. When they was taking down channels, folks, they were doing that on YouTube against us just because we were able to connect the dots. We told people years ago, don't go for this terrorist crap they're telling you. How can they claim Arabs are terrorists and all this others when they're letting Arabs erect mosques in every major city? Right where I live, every place I see, there's mosques and Arabs. And this was after September 11th, 9/11, 2001. This was even after that. I'm seeing all these Arabs. I'm like, come on, man. Terrorism isn't what they're claiming it is. They're putting religious extremism on the books to stop the children of Israel from ever identifying with themselves. When we start claiming we're Israelites, then they're going to start claiming religious extremism. And they use what? Arabs to pivot off of them to direct their evil, their evil concentrated system against the awakening. It was never about Arabs. Arabs can come over here today, jump off a camel, get on a plane and come over here and get more than a black man can receive right now who built the country. So it was never about Arabs, folks. It was about putting something on the books against us. And I told people years ago, they're going to pivot to Israelites as a terrorist. Watch. Because this is one thing the synagogue of Satan can't control. They're in control. Let me tell you, there's Zionist controllers over the right-wing evangelical Christian system. Okay? There's Zionists over that. There's Zionists that's over a lot of what you would call the apologetics teachings that send all the literature to the Christian churches that we populate and support more than any other demographic. So they can control. I can go into a black church today and the preacher will tell you, yeah, we are in support of Israel. How would you think that and not be in support of your people who are suffering in your neighborhoods? So all of these other organizations are controlled. The one thing they cannot control is our people identifying as the children of Israel. And that alone made the awakening what? A threat.
It makes it seem as if they know more than everybody else. Similar to those Reshaim, those Israelites, these idiots, Goyim, that they're not idiots because they're Goyim, because there are many smart Goyim, but they happen to be one of the idiots among the nations instead of the righteous among the nations. Now these idiots have been making a bigger stink lately. I had a few people send me messages about them and say, oh, this is concerning anti-Semitism. Kanye West is talking about the Israelites. Now I know these morons from years ago. I remember when I lived in New York, you always had one of these Amaleks in the middle of the street wearing something that he bought from a costume store, and he's yelling and screaming the New Testament, but he's pretending as if he's reading the 10 Commandments from Mount Sinai, and he's reading it in English because none of them know Hebrew. And, yelling at everybody that they're the righteous, they're the original Jews, they're the ones, and the Jews of today are fakers, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, at that time that I saw them initially, I didn't know anything about Judaism. So there's not much to argue here. I just knew they're idiots because just the way they behave. Today, Baruch Hashem, after Baruch Hashem, I've had enough time to learn enough that they're morons. Why are they morons? Because their entire premise of everything in regards to being an Israelite and the original Hebrews and they're black and all this racism, all of that can be crushed in literally just a few sentences. There's no need for a debate. I will never have a debate with one of these people because, again, they're violent people both verbally and otherwise. I will never have a debate with one of these people because, again, they're violent people both verbally and otherwise.
I will never have a debate with one of these people because, again, they're violent people both verbally and otherwise.
Because they don't have the people inside to control where it's going. The Catholic Church, the Christian churches in the black neighborhood have all been compromised. They've all been compromised. And I told people years ago how they was going to do this. They were going to start labeling Israelite terrorists. That's why I told these Israelites out there, y'all got to stop the old way, calling people names and all this. Let's grow up and use the wisdom of Christ to teach the knowledge of Christ. We don't need to talk down on other people to push the truth. I told people years ago, that's a childish way of teaching the Bible. Let the truth condemn. Let the word stand. And now they're going to promote all the radicals who are operating outside of Christ so that what? It leans into their demonization to claim that Israelites are all racist. Therefore, they are the equivalent of the black KKK and now can be labeled terrorists. I told them this ain't how Christ do it. And they played right into the trope that all Israelites have to be crazed people on a mission to take down something without their king. Not smart, but I'm not here to talk about them. 50,000 people have already received the mark of the beast, and I'm going to talk about that on Patreon.
And eventually what's happening is that we are being led bit by bit through, to use the Skinnerian term, from shaping through the successive approximation to ultimately having within our bodies an RFID chip that will be implanted, that people will stand in line and in queues for to have, so that ultimately we will have in our bodies. Because what we're doing right now, Lindsay, is we're slowly moving towards that. We went from the desktop to the laptop to the phone, to the watch, and now we're having little tattoos, little biometrics, all of them leading to the ultimate goal, and that is an RFID, a radio frequency identification or similar chip, to be placed subcutaneously. And that chip, Lindsay, will have everything about you there is. Your bank account, your GPS location, and you will do it. You will get one. Because after all, it will also have the siren call of medical information. And then one day, God forbid, not you, one day when people are found guilty of, let's say, crimes, they're not going to be put into the Hoosgow, the pokey. No, their chip is going to be turned off and poof.
All right, this next story may sound like something out of, a Hollywood thriller. A Saudi inventor has created a killer microchip. It's designed to track terrorists and criminals and, well, you can think of somebody. Not only does it include a GPS device, it also has a lethal dose of cyanide, which can be activated at any time. You get my point? This is pretty macabre, pretty sinister and nefarious. How exactly would this work?
Well, there's a category of technology that involves GPS tracking systems being shrunk down to the size where you could actually implant it surgically. And we've seen a number of applications for this. This is without question the most sinister version of it that I've certainly heard of. And the notion of tracking criminals is not new, but the notion of killing them remotely, I think, is a whole new thing.
They don't exist anymore. That's where all of this is going.
There will be a time when humanity will be forced to take a mark, and that mark will be on the right hand or the forehead. And people who do not take that mark, of course, will not be able to buy or sell.
The scripture she's referring to is Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 18.
Some people say RFID will be the mark of the beast because it can be a mark in your hand that you can transmit. If it isn't, and it may well not be, there may well be something that comes next beyond that to become, to fulfill that biblical prophecy. But every one of those steps was getting us closer to that end destination.
Once the CDC's full violation of the Constitution is underway, enforced by the Strong Cities Network, the United Nations Mark of the Beast system will be coming to a school and/or doctor's office near you, courtesy of the United Nations Agenda 2030.
Why am I going here? Remember the other day where I talked about 106,000 of our sisters lost their jobs? Most among all workers. The same time Trump is going after Section 8, setting up work programs where what? You're going to have to work to get any public assistance. Now that there's no jobs because all the jobs are being given to Ukrainians and all the other Eastern Europeans who are coming into the country, they're first in line for all the jobs on top of who? On top of the immigrants who are let in to replace you. And don't even count in AI. So our sisters have been bounced out. But what does this mean? How does this link to the mark of the beast? Well, for those who have been following the Gathering of Christ Church since about 2008, 2009, when they started putting our videos online, I went on a national tour to a few cities, to a lot of cities, and I had a teaching that a lot of it is online all over the place. People have cut, paste, and put my videos all over the place, right? There was a series I did called Path to the Mark. In the midst of that, we were in Washington, D.C. area. And we were at a family's house, highly affluent family, seemed like they were doing good, nice big house. All of them worked for the government. And there was a sister there in particular. And I said, listen, they're going to roll out the mark of the beast, where you're not going to be able to go to the supermarkets. You're not going to be do anything unless you get this mark. And at that time, God's people are going to have to exercise faith. And this girl stood up right in my face. Right? And of course, anytime they show our sisters, they have to show what? The trope of them, you know, angry and loud and all these others. That's part of their their psychological operation. They always claim that they are in support of our sisters, but anytime, any opportunity they get, they highlight the negative stereotype. And this is coming from Black Enterprise, this particular picture. Right? Black Enterprise is showing our sisters like this. But I'm going here because the sister stood up when she didn't have to and say, listen, I have a son. And if my son is going to starve and not have a place to stay, and someone tell me that I need to take an RFID chip in order for my son to live, guess what, honey? I'm taking it, because I don't know what God you serve that would let children starve and become homeless. Now, what she stated sounded logical. It sounded logical for a lot of people that were there. She said, I don't know what Bible you're reading, but the God I serve and go to church and serve, he's not going to allow my son to die if I have anything to say for it. And I said, sister, what you just expounded upon is the exact problem we have as a people. And she got loud and irate and all that, because we are the most church-going people who claim to believe in Christ. But as a people, we have the least faith. We have the least faith as a people. You mean to tell me you'll take Satan's mark so that your child can eat, as if God don't know your child need food? And she got up and she walked out and all these others. And guess what? Now that I see, think about this, 106,000 of our sisters, 300,000 since February have been laid off. And how many of those sisters are in the same mind as that sister who stood up 2008, 2009 during my series, Path to the Mark? How many more of these women are no different than her, who would be willing to do whatever the government say in order to keep their current lifestyles? If this is not Revelation 13 jumping off the pages, where it says you will not be able to buy or sell lest you get the mark of the beast, I don't know what is. And there's no other book on earth can describe what's going on in the earth real time. No other book. And I'm sitting there looking at this, seeing the strategic planning they have done, where it's almost what? It's almost to a scenario where is leading our people, the world, with it's leading us without any alternatives. Either we do this or we're out. See? Isn't that what we experienced during COVID, during the pandemic? If I don't do this, I'm out of society. I cannot eat. I can't be able to have fun with my family. I can't be able to shop and enjoy the life I built for myself. And now, there is no jobs that are coming back. And the only choice our sisters, our people will have is to get the next line of currency that's right down the pike right now that they're about to roll out, and say, listen, hey, you can keep your house. We know you got debt. We knew we weren't going to have no jobs for you. We wanted you to go to school and get these useless degrees, knowing that there'll be no job on the end of it, because now you're even more in debt. And you know what they're going to tell you next? And remember, I told you all this, brothers and sisters. Remember, I told you this May 30th, 2025, according to their count. Remember, I told you this, that they're going to tell our people that they'll forgive the debt, the school debt and any other debt, and give them a clean slate if they decide to comply with government to receive the mark of the beast. Remember, I told you all this first. And the first transition is going to have get people out there to give up their constitutional rights and only to opt in to the Real ID. That's going to be the first step. What is the Real ID? The Real ID is all of your data in one identification. But when you sign up to it, you sign away your sovereignty.
In an unknown future, one thing is certain. Digital IDs are essential to the project. If they become compulsory, data on every detail of our lives will be monitored, stored, and monetized. Nothing, but nothing, would be private.
For younger people, often it's the case that they like technology, they're completely au fait with it, they enjoy it. So they don't see the dangers that technology can bring because, like a drug dealer does, you feed people, low levels of drug where it's all fun. And then later, when you have them addicted, you feed the hard stuff and that destroys their life. So in a similar way, all of this technology is currently pretty much nice, but when the central bank digital currency comes in and the control comes in and the censorship systems, then the younger people will realize all too late in many cases that they've walked themselves into a trap.
One man who knows the dangers only too well is Aman Jabi, who was at the forefront of digital development in Silicon Valley, California, for 25 years. He left when he recognized the dark side of surveillance technology, choosing instead the peace and beauty of Montana. He's an expert in facial recognition.
It's a technique that is used to uniquely identify the biometrics of any face. So, in a device like your smartphone, and most modern smartphones in the last 5 or 7 years, they have a 3D camera module in the front of the phone which you cannot see. Within that module is a near-infrared projector which projects tens of thousands of dots on your face. Those dots are then distorted based on the contours and the features of your face, and there's a near-infrared camera then takes a picture of that distortion, captures it, and then reverse engineers the exact profile of your face. In the longer term, facial recognition will be used to unlock your digital identity, which is going to be a tool of control for the agendas that are coming down the pipeline.
Elements of that control are already with us.
Alexa, good morning. Good morning.
You are never alone in your home, and this is why. All your devices at home and all smart appliances, they are all connected on a wireless network. Many of these devices will have cameras, many will have microphones, and so they are monitoring everything all the time. Your smart appliances are communicating with the smart meter and sending it real-time usage data. If there's a Ring camera also in your home, a mesh network is formed and all your devices are being tracked within the home, its location, its usage, and all the data is going to Amazon servers. When you leave your home, all modern vehicles are connected to the internet, so your automobile is being tracked all the time. When you're going under a string of smart LED poles and smart LED lights on the highway and in the streets of your towns and cities, those form a wireless network and are tracking your vehicle. They are tracking all the devices on you, from smartphones to smartwatches when you're walking on the streets. So data is being collected 24/7 continuously on every human being whenever you are within these wireless networks. And it's obviously not good for health also because of all the electromagnetic radiation. In the long term, the plan is to pretty much lock up humanity in smart cities, which is kind of a superset of a 15-minute city. They've sold all the state and local governments and countries that smart cities are about sustainability and the good of the city. But in reality, the language from the UN and WEF and their white papers is all inverted. So, air monitoring is really about limiting mobility and no car ownership. Right? Surveillance, control via LED grid is why the smart lighting is there. Water management is about water rationing, noise pollution is about speed surveillance, traffic monitoring is about limiting mobility, and then, of course, energy conservation is all about rationing heat, electricity, and gasoline. Another concept one should be familiar with is called geofencing, and think of it as an invisible fence around you, where you cannot go beyond a certain point. And that will be related to your face recognition, digital identity, and access control. Your smart contracts, SoftBrick can turn off your digital currency beyond a certain point from your house. Our world has been turned into a digital panopticon. That means you can be monitored, analyzed, managed, and monetized.
Surveillance capitalists are already making billions of dollars selling our information to big corporations, because this kind of detailed knowledge enables them to predict and influence our behavior. Worse, our children are being exploited.
There are a lot of board games and other games that are already in the market and have been for over 2 years that have cameras inside and underneath these LED screens that are observing and scoring and emotionally calibrating the faces of all the children. So are all the iPads that they use in schools. They're all manipulating children's behavior by what they display on the screens. And child data is big business. There's a concept called social impact investing, which people should read up on. If your kids are in schools, they are already being traded on Wall Street in real time. They can bet on groups of kids whether they're going to be successful or not, whether they're going to become computer scientists or environmental engineers. So children have become essentially a commodity and have been for years with this system. And once it's fully in place, it is going to be used to fully control the behavior of children as well as how they behave with respect to, diversity, equity, inclusivity, etc.
The Chinese have already gone one step further.
Classrooms have robots that analyze students' health and engagement levels. Students wear uniforms with chips that track their locations. There are even surveillance cameras that monitor how often students check their phones or yawn during classes. These sensors pick up electrical signals sent by neurons in the brain. The neural data is then sent in real time to the teacher's computer.
We've been drawn into this digital spy network in the name of convenience, connectivity, safety, and especially entertainment. The 3D world of cyberspace creates virtual lives that are often more exciting than reality.
Why is this technology being developed? It's all for the culmination of this digital prison from which there will be no escape after all the switches are turned on.
The critical switch would be the introduction of those digital IDs and central bank financial control, a world of zero trust.
Zero trust is based on a simple principle. Never trust, always verify.
Zero trust is a protocol that is implemented by cybersecurity companies. And what it really means is we don't trust you and you have to prove who you are all the time, 24/7. So think of it as going from a world of implicit allow to default deny. In tomorrow's world, once zero trust is implemented in, say, retail, everything will be behind plexiglass doors with a 3D camera, and it'll only be unlocked through your digital identity and facial recognition if you have the available carbon credits in your digital currency.
If you've reached the limit of your allowance, it could be access denied. This would apply to fuel, to travel, to meat and dairy products, to clothes and other consumer goods. Because everything in life could be valued by its carbon footprint. Even access to the internet could be denied.
So the new world of zero trust is really a world of locks. It's like an inverted prison. You are supposedly free to roam about, but everything you want to access is behind lock and key.
See? It's going to seem convenient. Your bank information, your identification, your medical records, your marriage certificates, any government issued paper will be within this particular identification. But by doing so, you sign away your sovereignty. So they're going to make it seem as if it's another form of identification, but it's not. Because when you read the fine print, folks, it's like you are actually opting out of the rights to travel that you receive under the Constitution. And now you're under the international Constitution. So you've ripped up your rights as a sovereign citizen without them even telling you. And they're going to call it the real ID. A lot of people are getting it thinking it's a regular ID, but it isn't. So people might ask, well, if I don't get the real ID, then I'm not going to be able to travel. Well, get your passport. Get your passport. That's the only identification that will still allow you to be able to travel. Folks, in the United States, I went to Houston last week. Okay? I went to Houston. Don't you know that you cannot travel within the United States on a regular state identification anymore? Either you need the real ID or a passport to travel even within the United States. What is that telling you? The United States have already been divided into regions. It's like separate countries from state to state. But they didn't tell you yet. They didn't tell us yet. All of what I mentioned was put in place during the reset. When everyone was home, they reset the whole thing during the so-called pandemic. Now, they done set the women up because women are over what? The decisions of the house. They're over the children. See? So now if you put the women out with no options, leaving them no options but to be homeless, how many of them are going to go down and line up for this RFID, folks, for the mark of the beast? Give me a percentage. I think about 90%. Or guess what? More will line up to keep their house, to keep SNAP, and to have an opportunity for a work program with limited jobs that they'd be willing to go out and get chipped to sustain their life. And not only that, the same thing with the vaccinations, where the children couldn't go to school unless the parents vaccinated them. Well, guess what? It's going to be a necessity where it's not just you, mama. You got to bring your children down like you got them vaccinated. They must be chipped too. And guess what? Satan will clean your slate. Now, before I go over, I'm going to talk about the real ID, mass surveillance state. I'm going to deal with that on the other side.
The federal government says it will finally begin enforcing the National Real ID law starting on May 7th, for real this time after nearly 2 decades of delays.
Hi, I'm Christine Ulm, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a Real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a Real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay.
Go today and don't delay. We should just pause for a quick second there and appreciate what a great moment of irony that is. Because the Real ID Act was actually passed back in 2005, they said, in order to establish minimum security standards for state-issued driver's licenses and ID cards, and it was passed in response to the 9/11 Commission's recommendations. Now, of course, because it's the government, they've taken 2 decades to get their act together on this one. So a lot of people who are getting their first driver's licenses, they weren't even alive during 9/11 and now need to be reminded of how dangerous the world is.
Real ID is being enforced is because it's a federal law. Joe Biden kicked the can to May 7th, and this Real ID is going to just empower the states to make sure we're checking people's residences. Their current legal status will be verified. We're going to make sure that people who are getting Social Security numbers in this country aren't voting in states. The states have the power and the information to ensure election integrity. And here at the federal level, that information is not going to be any biometric information. It'll just allow people to get an ID that they should be on our planes. They should be people that are United States residencies, and that legal status will be checked. So it'll allow us to get more information to states so that they're making sure that they're protecting their election laws as well.
It's for our safety. We need to be safe. We'd love to be safe. Who can argue with that? Well, Representative Thomas Massie says no, that it's a total hoodwink. He tweeted the other day, Real ID isn't needed and won't stop terrorists from hijacking planes. Most of the 9/11 hijackers held Saudi, UAE, Egyptian, or Lebanese passports. He says that Real ID is a national standard and database of IDs that is primarily a tool for control of Americans, and that Trump should not enforce it. In another tweet, Massie also rebuts the claim about Real ID stopping voter fraud, saying, quote, if you think Real ID is about election integrity, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Someone has lied to you, or you're engaged in wishful thinking. The government, they would never lie to us, right? Well, technically, Massie is the government in this situation, but I think he's absolutely right. Real ID doesn't seem like it has anything to do with citizenship. In fact, you don't actually need U.S. citizenship to obtain a Real ID. DACA, TPS, and foreign workers on temporary work visas all qualify for Real ID. So what the hell is going on here? Well, back in 2005, the ACLU warned, quote, by centralizing our personal information into one giant data repository, the logical extension of a standardized driver's license, the Real ID Act presents many of the same privacy dilemmas as the Patriot Act. Both make it easier for the government to find out about you, your medical information, what you read, who you see, without any evidence that you're up to no good. Yeah, so if Real ID doesn't help improve safety, doesn't improve election integrity, if it doesn't actually secure a country, then it starts to look like papers, you know? Governments, past and present, forcing citizens to carry papers, who can go where, who are the good people, who are the bad people, who has spoken out against our government, or more accurately nowadays, other governments. It's actually funny how much they, meaning the media, or in this case, definitely the Trump administration, want us to hate a country like China. But the irony here is that a lot of these policies are very Chinese in nature. In China, they do in fact have a national ID system. There are checkpoints in a lot of different places, airports, train stations, public transit, even tourist attractions, they check your ID. The government basically knows where you are 100% of the time.
Rudy Giuliani had a line last night that I'm not sure many people noticed, but it had to do with a national ID card. It was within the context of a debate about immigration, and he said we need a tamper-proof ID card and a database that figures out who they are, immigrants, why they're here, and whether or not they're legal. That's a national ID card. Are you for that?
Absolutely not. I voted against the Real ID. I think the Real ID is the national ID card. It's essentially going to be introducing the notion that we will be carrying our papers. You can't do that, gather that much information in an ID card for illegal aliens or Hispanics and not include everybody. It just doesn't make any sense. So the age of carrying our papers and national IDs, it's here, and I am, concerned about that. It's all done in the name of safety. Everybody's frightened to death, and if you don't sacrifice your liberties, you can't be safe. And yet, the dangers exist, but they're not quite bad enough, and they never should be bad enough to sacrifice liberty. There's no reason to sacrifice liberty in thinking that you're going to be safer.
Yes, Tucker Carlson was once on MSNBC. Kind of shows how the networks are sort of interchangeable. But I think the broader point is important. The trade-off between liberty and safety. Many people don't have an issue with it. These are some of the reactions to Thomas Massie's tweets about Real ID. People are saying it's been in place for years. We need it to keep riffraff off of airplanes, make travel great again. Or others saying it's just a driver's license and people who oppose it are all morons. This, I think, is one of the pitfalls of partisan thinking. My guy likes it, so I like it. But if the other guy likes it, then I don't like it, or vice versa. I'm going to do my part to try to break this habit. So let's go back again to Tucker and Ron circa 2005.
So just sum it up for me in 3 sentences. If you get in an argument with someone about the national ID card, the response you're likely to get is, well, gee, the credit card companies have a lot of information on you and you don't feel like your liberty is being abridged because of that. Why is a national ID card a threat to liberty?
Well, one is private and one is government. I don't want the government snooping on me. I would give my fingerprint to Continental Airlines, the airlines I fly, in order to get through the line and to be assured that I'm a safe passenger. But I don't want to do it with the government. The government is there to protect privacy, not to invade our privacy. Now our government, it does more to protect their secrecy, and they violate our privacy. So there's a big difference between a credit card company. If they violate our privacy, then you can use the government to enforce laws because they promise me to keep my privacy confidential. So there's a big difference. It's sort of like the government shouldn't have your medical records, but I as a physician can have access to your medical records, but I better not violate that competence.
Amen.
In the end, I think it basically comes down to whether or not you trust the government. If you do, you probably will think that Real ID is no big deal. But if you're skeptical, like me, then it's only logical to think that this is possibly a slippery slope towards mass surveillance hell. Let me know what you think.
I'm going to also talk about what? Years ago, there was a I believe, a plant that was sent who tried to get our church compromised during the pandemic. There was a guy by the name of Matthew who I believe was almost a Manchurian candidate sent in by ops to try to get us associated with this guy that they sent in. Someone called me out of nowhere by the name of Matthew and said, Elder Ricard Shiar, I've been looking at your videos for a while, Elder, and it's going down right now. And I'm willing to send money to the church or whatever the case is, but I need to be baptized, right? He said, I need to be baptized. Folks, I said, brother, Elder Yurok is monitoring this particular stream right now. He can vouch for everything I'm saying here. Elder Yurok was in California. Matthew called me. He was in California or Arizona somewhere and said he needed baptism. I said, brother, he was a white guy by the name of Matthew. And I said, I will connect you with Elder Yurok in California. You can't make this up. This guy started making literature with the Gathering of Christ Church on it and all of this, passing out, telling people to join the church and all this, right? Now, folks, none of us appointed this guy to do anything. I sent this guy to Yurok to speak to Yurok. And the rock calls me at the baptism. You can't make this up. You know, and you know, when the rock called me, he says, "Hey, boss." I don't know why he called me that. "Hey, boss." I'm like, "What's going on, Rock?" He says, "I'm at the baptism." I'm like, "All praises be to the Most High." He says, "This guy Matthew you sent to be baptized." I'm like, "Yeah, baptize him." He says, "Elder, right now, he's a white guy with a fresh tattoo of the name Ahia in the ancient Phoenician on his forehead. And he's in the corner with his hands up, praying separate from everybody else, out of his mind." I said, "Well, that's interesting." I'm like, "Well, first of all, getting tattooed is against the law of God, for those who didn't know. And I wasn't going to have this brother disturb a baptism in Christ, this white guy who came out of nowhere." So I told him, I'm like, "Listen, tell that brother to go back to wherever he come from and reach out to us later, because this is going left," right? This guy Matthew calls me a few days later and state, "Elder Ricard Shiar," he said, "the vaccine is the mark of the beast, and you got to tell everyone that it's the mark of the beast." I said, "Brother, you ain't in no position to tell me what I need to tell the people. Okay? We get understanding through that Bible and the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to tell you right now, young man, you need to get your life together, but don't call me, because you're not here to lead anything. You're here to be saved, and we will accept you. But let me tell you, don't you ever call me trying to claim that the vaccine is a mark of the beast and you want us to carry your water. You called me, young man. I don't know you. Right? So then he says, "Well, I gave a donation." I'm like, "Listen, brother, tell me where you gave a donation and we'll send it back right now." So you want me to, hold up. You're going to come to me and think that you can bribe the church into carrying your water to tell everyone that the vaccine is the mark of the beast? Are you out of your mind? Right? Folks, and I said, "You know what? This guy is an op." Brothers and sisters, look what we found on CNN. Fair use.
We were out of town. We came back from Chicago. He was gone.
Abigail and John Danian haven't seen their son Isaac since September of 2020. That's when they say he ran off to Hawaii to follow his so-called guru.
I've known about the end times for many years.
That guru, Matthew Mello. He goes by...
That guru, Matthew Mello. Now, folks, this actually looks like a put-together production made for CNN. Here is the guy who called me to wanted me to carry his water and to tell the people this coming Wednesday that the vaccine is a mark of the beast. Here he is.
Goes by the name Mordecai Eleazar on social media, including his YouTube channel, where he offers sermons about what he says is Satan's plan to destroy society, and false claims about the dangers of the COVID-19 vaccine, which he calls the mark of the beast.
Today, people don't even know what the mark of the beast is. Those who do still don't. They think it's an RFID chip or something of that manner.
Mello had posted mark of the beast.
Now you see that? This is what this guy was programmed to think, or what he thought before he even reached out to us. Some people out there claim that the mark of the beast is the RFID. Now, suppose we would have listened to this guy here and told everyone that the vaccine was the mark of the beast when people tried to force that on us, when we know it isn't. But I'll tell you what, they put in the full infrastructure of the mark of the beast during that whole psychological operation, the pandemic. Y'all can't tell me, folks, that the Most High isn't working with this church. They sending ops and all of that. We've been on it since the beginning, folks. And I'm going to tell you now. We're going to show you what the mark of the beast is. We're going to let you know you better not take it. And they're going to roll it out no different than they did when the vaccine and stuff went out. It's the same rollout. But guess what? The RFID is going to have, the chip is going to have some, I would say, impressive qualities. Yes, if you have a handicap, if you have a sickness, folks, it's going to be a one-stop shop. People aren't even going to need the doctors when they have this in them. Okay? You're not going to need doctors. They already have the whole system in place where you'll be on Zoom or speak to your doctor, and because you are connected to a grid through the chip, the doctor is going to know exactly what's wrong with you because it's connected to your body. It's connected to you. So they're going to be able to pull you up and know exactly what's wrong and fix it just like that. Miracles.
As a quadriplegic, it must be frustrating for you, someone who liked to get things done with their hands.
Here's the thing. 4 guys murdered my wife. If I could find these men, I'd do it.
What if I told you I could offer you something that would enable you to walk again? I call it STEM, a computer chip that has the potential to change everything. It's a new, better brain.
I am STEM, the system operating your body for you.
Can anybody else hear you?
No, only you. May I point something out? In the drone surveillance footage, Sir Brantner, Marine Corps, address 414 Citrus, Newcraft. We'll need a plan.
I got this.
This doesn't seem like a well thought out plan.
I need your permission to operate independently.
Permission granted!
Thank you.
Stay down, man. Sam, he's got a knife!
I see that. We have a knife too.
You now have full control again, Gray.
If you are involved in this somehow, then you need to let me know.
Well, I was in the area, Detective.
There was a gun implanted inside his hand.
Stan, what do you think I should do?
Move, Gray.
Man, you are persistent.
I cannot allow us to be killed. We are going to finish the job we started.
Handicaps is going to fix handicaps, all of that. And folks, this is the science that I told people even during the pandemic was already approved.
Much more testing and research is needed before any kind of widespread use.
So think about this. You get to keep your house. You get money in the bank, a stimulus. You get all of your debt forgiven. On top of that, if you have anybody sick in your house with a diagnosis, they're healed. How many people you think are going to be on for the RFID mark of the beast. See? But you must give up something in exchange for all of this. Your soul. That's why those who take the mark of the beast will not be accepted. Because now you become someone else. Instead of the Most High in your consciousness and connecting with you from on high, you're now connected to the beast. It's in your mind, it's in your consciousness. You're being controlled from the outside of you, and who you used to be will no longer exist. Well, that concludes my update on YouTube, but we're going to ramp it up on the other side with Patreon. Hope to see you over there. Patreon.com/AGathering144. Come over and join us as we embark on another journey exposing the truth concerning the mark of the beast. Shalom.
Every day I wake up, man, I swear it's something new. Don't know what he got planned, but I know I'm gonna keep cool. The devil may throw his darts, but I shall not be moved. Gotta set my heart right if I want to endure. He never said that it'll be easy, but gold is tried in the furnace of adversity. Gotta see my Savior one day face to face. Went down in that water, came up, they said, welcome to the war. Ooh, through the furnace of adversity, proving to be who you're meant to be. The refined, the vine, glow you are. Just look up, it's gonna be okay. Trust us, you know he's gonna make a way. Just look up, it's gonna be okay. Praise the Father, you know he's gonna make a way. I can't take it, just won't make it. Don't wanna do this no more. Prepare thy soul for temptation, cause it's right at the door. Realize this is a test, you must succeed. Cleave to him deeper night and you will be increased exceedingly, abundantly. Above all, you ask or think, know the Father, provide your needs. Now you know you're not alone, my sister. Welcome to the world. Just take it cheerfully, keep pressing, keep going to gain and see eternity. You gotta be worthy.